What is up, citizen detectives, Antler Queens, and secret boyfriends? Welcome to the Yellowjackets Buzz podcast, and today we have a very special guest, Eduardo Sánchez, director of the Yellowjackets season finale. Of course, you also know him from his work as co-writer, co-director, and co-creator of the Blair Witch Project, as well as the films Lovely Molly Exists, Altered, and Seventh Moon, as well as a segment in VHS 2, plus directing episodes of Supernatural, American Horror Story, Lucifer, Queen of the South, and the Yellowjackets season finale. Eduardo, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome, man. So excited about this. To start with, how did you get involved in the Yellowjackets season finale?
I was up for like many months before they started shooting, like I guess early last year. They they were kind of interested in me as a director for one of the episodes, and um, so I watched the pilot and I really loved it. And read a few of the scripts, and I thought it was a cool show. And scheduling issues or whatever, for some reason I didn't get the first kind of few episodes. And then like late summer, my schedule had an opening, and they were like, asked my agents if I was interested in doing the finale, and I was like, of course. I mean, I was a little um you know uh a little bit nervous about that, because it's hard to come in out of nowhere and do the finale of a show that you haven't been a part of. You know what I mean? Usually the finale is done by somebody that's already done an episode or two. Um, but just scheduling just didn't work. For some reason the person, I guess, they had planned, or I'm not sure what happened, but I got the job and I was like, yeah, man, I'll do it. So that was it. And I literally got the job like maybe a week or a few days before I had to head out to Vancouver. So but so then I got there and I watched a bunch of the episodes that were already edited, and I was like, man, this is a good show. So I was like, I better not screw it up.
Yeah, that's what wanted to ask you. It's going into it with, such a short notice. How was the research? Did you have time to sit down, kind of get some feedback outside of just watching the previously recorded episodes? You get to talk to the cast and kind of like know where you wanted to go with this?
Well, I mean the cast, you get to know the cast, but I mean mostly talking to the showrunners, Ashley and Bart, um, the main writers, and they had written my episode. Um, so just kind of get the lowdown from them. And they were there in Vancouver, which was cool. I usually the showrunners are not, in the location. They're in the writers' room or whatever in LA. So it was kind of cool having them there, and they're cool people. And um, I kind of got the idea of how the little quirkiness of it and the tone. And if I had any questions, I always ran it by them. And they kind of told me what was going on and what they wanted from the episode. And there's things called tone meetings. There's all these things that they kind of kind of give you the roadmap of the episode, like what's important and what happened before. But so it was pretty smooth. I mean, there's always hiccups, and there's always a lot of stress associated with the end of the season, because especially the first season, because the show hasn't aired yet. People don't know if it's going to be a hit. People don't know if it's going to be a disaster, a flop. So it's just everybody kind of is nervous and stressed a little bit. But it was a good experience, and everybody, when I got there, at the end of sometimes at the end of seasons of whether it's the first season or you know third or fourth season, whatever. Sometimes you get to the near the end of the season, and the crew is always wiped out, physically, just and emotionally too. But a lot of times you get to the set, and people, you can feel that like the energy is kind of draining out of the show, like everybody's just kind of waiting for it to end and go elsewhere. And with Yellow Jackets, it seemed like everybody was tired, and it was the end of the season. Everybody wanted to take a break or whatever, ready to be over. But everybody was really kind of in love with the show. Like there was still this really great energy, and people were like, really cared. And a lot of times you you work on a show, and a lot of people don't care. Like they are kind of just going through the motions. And that happens. But that was cool, and it was just and they had already kind of had this little family, so I was just kind of like, all right, I hope I don't, I hope I can fit in here. And luckily, everybody kind of welcomed me, and it was went very pretty smoothly.
And this was pretty quick turnaround from finishing shooting to post. I mean, we've heard various things from the cast we've interviewed. I mean, this went into like late September or October on the finale, right?
Yeah, yeah, we wrapped at the end of September. Um, and and they were like, you know, they were already, trying to finish all the rest of this because they're all the episodes, especially the episodes that I had seen, as they got further along, there was a lot of stuff missing. Just sometimes you miss scenes, and editorially needs a shot that isn't there. So there was a lot of like these little kind of black spots in the show. They were just busy trying to finish my episode and also kind of finish all the stuff that was needed from the other episodes. So it was pretty hectic, but again, it went. We got it done. A lot of times, especially at the end of the season, you're like, "Oh my god, how are we going to get this done?" But great crew, great cast. Everybody kind of everybody pulled through when we needed to.
Now, I know you mentioned that you went into watching all the other episodes, read the script. What were your original thoughts just seeing everything about Yellow Jackets? I know you said, wow, this is a great show. What stood out to you the most and made you excited to be directing the season finale?
Well, to me, I mean, what originally I saw, in the pilot it was my kind of show. It was dark. I liked that it had kind of this Lord of the Flies kind of angle, which is one of my favorite books, and I just love that whole idea of like this group of people, being shut off from the rest of society and kind of what happens, the social constructs that happen. And so I love that, and I also loved, like, I thought that they had really done the kind of the time difference. That's really hard to do, and that seemed pretty well. It was very clearly done. Like, I think the casting was really strong. So the young characters to the older characters, I think matched really well, and I just felt like and the premise of it, like these high school girls that like end up cannibalizing each other or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was just like the pilot just hooks you immediately, and and you want to see more. And I just thought it was really well done, and um and I was just excited to do the finale because I was kind of disappointed that I hadn't been able to direct an episode, and I got this opportunity, so I was psyched.
It was an incredible finale. So much happened, and I want to talk about a lot of those beats and the nuance and build with each of them. But I have to say, you mentioned the cast and the alternating timelines. You directed the first scene in the series where all of our present day leads were together, the core four. What was that like? That energy of having them together for the first time on camera?
um it was, I mean, like, I think people had mentioned that, but I hadn't connected it, because I had not seen the whole thing, and I wasn't like studying it like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know a lot of people. Um, so yeah, they told me that, but it was great. I mean, it's like one of these things where um, if you have a good cast, the show, at least actor wise, almost kind of directs itself, because everybody had their characters down. It's not like I'm going to go in there and say, hey, I don't think they would say this, and I don't think you should be, like, the script is written, the character arcs are already mapped out. It's not like I can jump in and say, no, let's change this to that. Um, so I just kind of it was kind of cool, just kind of set up the blocking, and um, you just let them go. When you have that caliber of actor, of actors, just you just kind of mostly just try to stay out of the way. Uh, you have to kind of figure out the blocking and figure out where you're going to do the camera, and where where they're going to come in, and just all the kind of the action of the scene, and how and also in television you're always kind of rushing, because it's like you always don't have enough time. And I'm used to that, indie world, indie film that you're always kind of running. So you don't have much time. You kind of and you and the whole challenge is setting the scene up where you don't have to have 25 angles. You can cover it in 5 or 6 shots and you're out of the scene. Um, but yeah, I mean, there was a cool energy because it was later. I think that scene was like at the almost at the very end,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like at the end of the season. I've done a few season enders, and like um especially a show like this, which, actually most shows when you're doing the season finale, you don't even know. Usually, you don't know if it's going to be picked up. Even if it's a show that's like recurring, they haven't really announced it yet. Usually, so you're kind of every time an actor, finishes the last scene, everybody kind of, comes around. The AD says, and that's the fine, that's a season wrap for, you know, this person, and everybody claps, and it's kind of an emotional thing. But one by one, everybody starts leaving. You know what I mean? So it was that time where people were starting to leave. I think that was Christina's last day, and maybe Juliet's last day. But so it was. There's just some things that there was a lot of energy that day, and all the executives were there. There was a lot of people from LA that had come in for the end of the season. Some of the people from the studio and the production company, and so and for me, it's like I just try not to let it distract me. I have a job to do, and but yeah, I mean, honestly, it was like um when you do these TV shows, especially the show like Supernatural. I came in on the 10th season. Like, what am I going to tell those guys that is going to be different from their character? I mean, you and there's always a way to to put your mark on the show, but these actors know these characters. What I mean? So basically, you're just kind of guiding, kind of giving, yeah, asking them to do, kind of giving them the tips of like, or like the idea of like what you need them to do in the scene, like what needs to happen at the end, or this or whatever. And they have questions, and you just do a rehearsal and you go for it. But it's the caliber of actors that are working in television these days on these kind of big shows. It's just like you know they're just professionals. They're just they just don't mess around, you know what I mean? And they give you something different on each take. And if they, you give them a note, they nail it. I mean, it's just, it's really, I mean, it's always difficult and stressful to do shows like, like this. But, you know, the actors and the crew, make it easy, for me.
And I think fans overestimate the amount of improvisation that happens on any series. But I do have to ask, you did get to direct a short scene, perhaps I think their shortest scene together of the season, of Misty and Natalie with Christina and Juliet. What is their energy like working together? Because on screen, I mean, their chemistry is just off the charts.
Yeah. It's like it was, it's very professional, they, there wasn't much. I mean, Christina was like 7 months pregnant.
Oh, that's right.
So I think she was just trying to figure out, like trying to just get through it, and she was a trooper. Um, all the actors, super professional. Um, so the I don't know what was going on between them, but I mean it was very efficient. They came in and they knew, they kind of talked amongst themselves, and we did a little rehearsal, and they talked a little more. And they had done, they had been doing scenes together, so it was not like it was the first time or whatever. And they just have like this, they both have this shorthand, like of getting, the important parts of the scene, and figuring out, if there's any props in the scene, how does that work, and how, the movement, and the and also the doing the same kind of movement and kind of the same action in each of the takes, so that you can follow, the continuity doesn't screw you up. There's so many things that they have to think of, but it's like, again, there was like no it's very little drama. It's just basically, let's get the scene, and figure it out, and shoot it.
Well, one character I think you really did get to have more influence on directing, because this was really her showcase. What was it like directing Tanya Cornelise as Allie in the reunion scenes?
I mean, that was just kind of again, like let her go. She was, there was a kind of a question as to far, like how far do we take the kind of the Jersey girl thing, Um, but you know, she's just, she's just really. I just love the scenes, especially like I feel like her and Randy should have like a little spin-off show or
Yes.
something, or get into it in season two. I mean, they should have like a torrid, affair. Um, but I mean, it was a lot. With her, it was like a lot of it was just trying not to laugh, yeah, and also Randy, like just um,
Randy's amazing.
yeah. I mean, it was just
Especially the season finale, his scenes were magical.
yeah. He's just great, and and I just it's fun that just when they're so when the people are so talented and they can
Yeah.
bring and and you give them direction. Like I think one of the directions we gave Allie was like, let's give us a couple different variations on like
Yeah.
how big you want to be, so that we can kind of adjust it in the edit. If we need a little more, we have it. If we need a little less, but and then she took the note, and I think almost every scene she did, um, she gave me the different levels, and
Yeah.
and that's it just makes editing so much easier, when you have options.
I gotta tell you, I think everyone had the same reaction that we've spoken to on this podcast and just online, where it's like, it seems really big at first, and then it's like, no, you know what? We all know someone like this. We all know somebody who manages to make something all about themselves, and they almost have a song and dance about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've met so many people like that. I mean, yeah, there's like certain people that almost have like they have like a shtick.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, that is a shtick, but that's just the way they are. So and there's always like I'm like my thing is like, how is she at home, by herself? Still act that way, or because I think that she was just hopped up on the
Right.
excitement of the night. You know what I mean? But I think she was and that's another thing. It's like what would the character would be going nuts right now. This is like she's been building up to this moment for maybe her whole life.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of clock that she would be very enthusiastic and very energized on this night.
Honestly, for the first half of the finale, that was like my high point, just seeing her arc and her journey. And I think with the season finale, you're always kind of waiting for that last 15 minutes where the shit's gonna go down. And she just stole the show. So you're telling me though, maybe somewhere as a deleted scene, a DVD extra, an alternate take, you're telling me there are takes where Allie went bigger with that performance.
For sure.
Oh
For
my
sure.
god, I would
Yeah,
love to
I
see
mean,
that.
not to the point where where it was like parody, you know what I'm saying?
I
But
know, I know, I
Right,
know.
right, right.
no, I mean, absolutely, because yeah, I mean, it's like they, she was just having so much fun with it, and we were having so much fun, watching her. Like every
Yeah.
time she had that line where it was like, what's she calls out the guy like, hey, you're a grown man. Like every
Yeah.
time, it was for people like, everybody's like holding their mouth so they don't
So
laugh
good.
at the take. Yeah, it was just, it was like for me the great thing about Yellow Jackets, I think, is that and we've been developing TV shows, and
Yeah.
we're trying to get our own TV shows on the air. And we've had various successes, and we've gotten close, but we haven't gotten one in a while. And one of the things, because when you're dealing with horror, it's just the whole thing of like just you have to be dark. It's horror. It's
Yeah.
Right.
but not be so dark that people want to like kill themselves after the episode. And I think that's what you asked earlier about like what I saw in Yellow Jackets, and that's what I saw, especially in my script. That it was just like there was just a lot of funny stuff in there.
Right.
And it's not like prankster kind of
No,
goofy
no.
stuff. It's like just the dialogue is really snappy and like you know
Mhm.
um, really just really smart and funny and esoteric, and just everything, like this mixture. And I think that the finale had like a lot of things happen, but it was also like this kind of performance that kind of made people like just kind of lighten the mood, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that, that needs it. It needs that. Shows like that need that kind of levity in every once in a while.
It's very much a dark comedy about like trauma and survival, and I think that's how a lot of people cope. So it makes sense. Speaking of which, so I mean, I have to say, when we get to the end scene with Natalie, and it looks like she's about to take her own life before what we
Yeah.
now know as the cult barges in. I mean, I really thought the series was going there. I thought this was going to be like the ultimate downer ending, and then it immediately turned to excitement. What was it like, sort of maintaining that tone with so many moving pieces in that sequence?
Um, it's basically Juliet um in the hotel room, and hotel room's a set,
Yeah,
and we were, she has a gun pointed to her head. I mean, it's, so you just kind of give her, a little moment, and give her a little space, and tell her to prepare, and and then she kind of says when she's ready, and kind of get it ready, and we roll. And and she just, I wish that, you know I mean, I wish we could have milked that sequence a little more. I mean, I know the edit, you have a certain amount of time, and they actually cut, they cut a few scenes, a few really great scenes. They had to, they always, it's always, you're always shooting a little more, but that scene and that whole sequence was like, it was being shot on separate days, so I had to kind of keep the energy similar, and that's tough because you're shooting on different days and different times, and sometimes it's hard to kind of nail what the we were going before. But for that scene, I wish they would have had a little longer, held a little longer on her, because she did these really great things. But I tell you don't have the time. But I wish we could have just run like like a minute of that camera
yeah,
close up to
so
Juliet.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, because and also Juliet is like this. She just um she gives you something different with each take, and sometimes she's challenging to, like, for editing, because she does different things. But like, as far as like finding these little moments, she always gives you these, three or four really like genuinely like amazing little moments in almost every shot, every and that one was, it was just powerful, just seeing, and especially the scene, where she looks at the camera, and
Mhm.
um, it's just one of those scenes that kind of leaves you, even when we were shooting it, just kind of everybody's kind of quiet, um, and then but I really dug, the whole idea was like just trying to keep for the end. I love the sequence, how it was written, and for me, it was just like, let's just, you got to keep the tension up. You got to keep the,
Mhm.
keep building it to this moment. It's the final climax of the season. It's the last thing that people are gonna. The last couple of minutes of a season are super important. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to nail it, man. And give enough coverage so that the editors could, can put together a good sequence.
There was a lot of scenes in the season finale that I felt the performers just gave them their all. This scene that we're discussing right now, particularly, is one. I thought that that final shot when Thaisa finds out that she wins the election, and it's so subtle, just a smirk in her face. I love that scene. That the scene when Jackie is dead. There was so many scenes that all you had to do was just shoot, and all of us felt the emotion. It was pretty amazing, especially the Juliet scene, my favorite scene in the finale.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like, um, a lot of my work is just like, all right, like, where do we put the camera to get the best angle on this person, and just let the person go. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, it's a, again, it's a lot of fun working with people who are so good.
And stylistically, this did feel darker even than the episode that preceded it with Doom coming. I mean, this I did really feel like you got to put your stamp on this, and it transitioned the series. I feel like it almost matured a
Yeah,
bit with
yeah.
this. I do have to ask, with the resolution of the Natalie scene, I mean, credit to the sound mix. Was the goal, how close can we make a knock on the door sound like a gunshot? Because I mean, I jumped off my couch when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, in the script, um, there's this beat, and we shot it this way, where like it's just a knock on the door, and then Julie, it's
Yeah.
kind of a funny moment, and she says, I'm busy, and then they break in, you know what I mean? And and she had some great, again, it's one of those things where I'm like, I wish it would be cool to have like the alternate take somewhere, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, with that. Um, and I think that maybe they felt it was a little too comedic or just different, a tone thing. But yeah, I'm with you, man, because that's the first time I had heard that sound because on TV shows, we never like sit it. The directors never sit it on the sound mix.
Mhm.
In fact, we never. The first time I saw the show was when it aired.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I because I handed off like a week after we stopped shooting. I hand it off and it's 3 or 4 minutes too long.
Yeah.
It's there's no effects work is all temporary. So I mean, a lot of some shows, when I watch it, they've rearranged the scenes. Like the showrunners do crazy things to the shows. Um, once you're done, and they always have to cut scenes or cut scenes short or whatever. So I was as surprised as you, man. I thought it was brilliant, brilliant sound work.
And what was it like? We interviewed Jane Widdop, who plays Laura Lee. She was telling us a little bit about her perspective shooting the Black Lodge scene, as Ashley and Bart have begun calling it. What was that tone like in doing something that was such a surreal shift within the series?
Um, I mean, it was kind of heavy because it was, it's Natalie's dead, like everybody is right, Natalie, right?
Oh, Jackie,
Yeah,
Jackie.
or Jackie. I mean, yeah, Jackie's, you know, dead, and you're, this is her brain dying or whatever it is. It's some supernatural thing or something, in the spirit realm or whatever. So the whole, and it was just like, you know, this actress that had, Ella had been there the whole time, and it's, that character's dying. It's kind of a, it's a weird thing, you know what I mean? Like, so there was already kind of a weird feeling, like on the set, because it was one of the final scenes. Um, and but I think they just, it was just a fun thing to shoot because it was like, you can be as like stiff and you can try these kind of horror things that don't work in reality, but like if it's the spirit realm, then you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally, they would be acting so weird. And the whole idea that they're just standing there in a, in a semicircle waiting for her. um and for me it was like making the transition, like not like making sure that it wasn't, that the audience felt that it was still reality for a little while. You know what I mean? Like when they're outside and she comes out and she apologizes, Shauna comes out and apologizes, like still kind of, you know, um, there's still a little bit, you're like, oh, that could be real. And then you go inside and you realize, okay, this is not, something's off here. Um, but it was just like, the DP, the camera crew was great. So just, just doing various shots with we wanted to give it like the scene like a little kind of effect, and we wanted to try to do it in camera. So Kim, the DP, had this lens that he was, and he's literally like move, like the camera operator is moving the thing and the DP is like in front of the lens like moving this thing, as the camera moves, which kind of gave us that little kind of out of focus kind of thing. Um, but it was fun, you do. I love POVs in horror, you know what I mean, and you rarely get to do like pure POV. So I did one of like Jackie's POV where everybody's looking at straight at the camera, which I thought was cool, very effective. And then that little beat at the end, where we see that whoever that is at the end,
Oh,
um,
the hunter.
the mysterious hunter. Um, it was kind of one of these things where like we we started shooting it and we're like, we don't want to we don't want to see that much detail. Like it was a little too much detail on the face, so we darkened it up. And I think they did another thing in the post, but it's like for me, that's, I'm a horror director, so those moments like, are not easy, but like I know how to kind of, navigate those beats. And I just I love that whole the way it was written, and I think the way it was performed and edited, and I think it was that whole sequence of discovering Jack. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. I just love the sequence of events. You know what I mean?
And to that end, what was it like doing the reveal of Ty's altar and the fate of Biscuit?
Man, that was. I mean, first of all, um, the whole Biscuit thing was a weird thing because the dog that plays Biscuit is like a trained dog. He's like he or she. I'm not because I never worked with the dog, but he was there were it was gone by the time I got there. um so the dog, it's a trained dog or whatever, and they have like a stuffed version of the dog that's like been custom made that looks exactly like the real dog, which is a weird thing, you know what I mean? And they use it because it's a TV dog, movie dog, so they sometimes you need, the fake version of it. But the problem with the fake version is that we couldn't rip the head off. It was an expensive thing. So we had to figure out how we're going to put the head through that mantle. And then it was like kind of lopsided for a while. And we were like, we can't be lopsided. It has to be. And then how do we like make it look dead without like destroying the little thing, the replica. But it was like they built this little alt. They built this little room. And they built this little tunnel, and the actress just kind of got in, and everybody was just such a champ. I mean, there was this creepy tunnel, um, that she had to crawl through, and there's actually a shot that they didn't use, just for time, but it was a total kind of you know horror movie shot where we're like the camera's in front of her and she's just
Yeah.
going it, and there's a POV of just this, like, where the hell is she going? Like, it's not a good thing. Um, but it was just basically, make it look, make sure that it looks like the dog is, dead, and then just work with the actress to kind of just on the reveal, and how are we going to show it's just kind of like, we want to build up the tension, and how do you reveal it? And we just did a couple of different options, and then they edited, which the way they thought that was most effective. But it's those horror scenes are sometimes hard because the reaction has to be right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the reaction, I thought was perfect. You know what I mean? Like it was. Sometimes you can overdo it, sometimes you can underdo it, and it was, again, when you have just such great actors, you can do a lot of things. You can do a lot of cool things.
I want to ask you a question, just to humor horror fans and Yellow Jackets fans.
Mhm.
Which woods would you rather be lost in, the Blair Witch Project woods or the Yellow Jackets woods?
Man, that's not a good choice.
I know.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's not a good. I mean, not a good choice at all. I mean, I guess I mean, we'll see how they get out of the woods, or
Right?
what happens. I'm not. I still don't know how they get out of the woods. Um, I guess I would choose the Yellow Jackets woods because I don't want to have anything to do with Blair Witch.
I think I agree with your choice there.
I know that evil, too.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's funny too. So one thing I think Blair Witch Project does not get enough credit for is establishing a universe beyond the film.
Yeah.
And what was your thought process, going into that, doing things like the Curse of the Blair Witch TV news style documentary? I mean, doing the expanded universe with website marketing in a way. I mean, you almost had a real influence on alternate reality games and sort of this world building that we now see is so prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, for us on Blair Witch, it was like, the first, because there was going to be two phases. It was two
Yeah.
phases of shooting. One was the woods, and then we were going to do like a documentary stuff. All the interviews, and then we were going to put it together. And so the wood stuff, you know, we wanted it to be as real as possible. We wanted it to be like three people lost, in the woods. So, we knew we didn't want any dialogue. So we just kind of like let the actors do improv. And we knew, we had this Blair Witch legend. So we had to kind of, Heather being she's the documentarian who's going to go shoot this movie about the Blair Witch. So we had to kind of fill her head up with Blair Witch stuff. You know what I mean? So we created this whole mythology of what, what exactly are they out there, investigating. And we gave her like as much of the information as possible. We didn't give Josh or Mike any backstory on the Blair Witch. Like we wanted it to be like, if anybody's going to explain the Blair Witch to them, it'll be Heather, and so that was kind of, it was kind of a necessary thing to
Yeah.
do in the movie. You had to have backstory for these actors to pull from. And then once we were editing the movie and we were, we were back in Orlando shooting phase two. I started working on the website, and it was like, that was part of the thing. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to put up the mythology of this thing, and we started filling in all the holes. We didn't have everything completely figured out when Heather, during the shooting. So we kind of went back and, just kind of filled out this mythology
Yeah.
page, and and everything just kind of kept growing, and it was weird because the um the whole thing with Mike standing in the corner at the end of the movie, like that was something that we literally came up like 2 days before we shot it.
Yeah.
Like we had no idea how the movie was going to end, so we had to let's just have him stand there and not, Heather yells at him, and for some reason he's not responding. That's creepy, because how else are you going to, end Blair Witch Project? You know what I mean? So we decided to do that, and man, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's all good. No, it's fascinating to hear.
Yeah, so I mean, so basically, it was like the the once we got going into, the mythology, the mythology kind of built up itself during the website, and then once Artisan bought us, they were like, hey, we have this hour with Sci-Fi Channel. Do you guys
Yeah.
have anything that we could like, that you could do like a little special? We were like, yeah, we have all this footage that we basically threw out, cut out of the movie. Let's do like a little documentary. And that's where Curse of the Blair Witch was born. And then, once the movie, we did comic books and all these graphic novels. Then like it was kind of cool because other people were kind of expanding the mythology. And that was kind of like what what we loved about Blair Witch,
Yeah.
even in the early days, is that we wanted it to be like a community, like people, like we didn't want the mythology to be like written in stone. We wanted it to be flexible and kind of like, history is kind of unpredictable and kind of different,
Yeah.
depending on whose point of view you're looking at. So we wanted to keep it that way. We didn't want to set any rules or whatever. But and the fans just love that stuff.
Yes.
I've been bringing up the sci-fi special because for Yellow Jackets, I think it's just so ripe for like a '96 style TV news documentary about the disappearance and talk to young Randy and young Allie and the parents. And
You're right about that.
so, what's the status with the franchise now? I think a couple years ago you talked about there might be something else kicking around for the future.
I mean, it's like the franchise is still, pretty popular because like Artisan, I mean, I would say Artisan, but Lionsgate, who owns the movie now, they keep doing these things like they did, the 2016 movie, they did the video game, the new video game, they did like this Hunt a Killer thing, which was really cool. And now they're doing like an escape room in Las
Saw
Vegas.
that. I'm in Vegas. I got targeted when I was searching,
Yeah,
doing research for that. I was like, I
yeah,
didn't even know that was.
yeah. So like I think, and then there's something I saw something where they're doing some kind of another Blair Witch thing. So like obviously there's like, the franchise, like, the IP still has like juice, you know what I mean? Like people are still
Yeah.
interested. But I mean, man, we've been like I have no idea what's going on. Like every time I tell people ask me this, I'm like, there could be a Blair Witch TV show that comes out, next week and I wouldn't know. I know that I mean, Greg and I are like, still partners from the Blair Witch days, and we've pitched a couple of shows. I mean, we actually developed a show with Lionsgate, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago now. I don't know how
Hmm.
long it was, but we actually like developed it with a couple of executives from Lionsgate, and we went out with it, and it didn't get sold. But right shortly thereafter, they were like, "Oh, let's do a TV show," and we pitched some stuff there. And I know that, and every once in a while, we meet somebody, and they're like, "Oh, I pitched a Blair Witch TV show a couple years ago." So I know that they're like trying to, you know, they're trying to do stuff. And again, like literally there could be a show coming out next week and I wouldn't know. But I love it because um, you know, it's kind of cool that something that I helped create is like still
Yeah.
kind of generating interest. Um, but and look, and Dan, Greg and I would love to go back into the Blair Witch and do a Blair Witch TV show. I mean, that would be great, I think. But until they ask us, we're kind of, it's up to them. We got other things going on.
Right.
But maybe, there's always like I try to keep in touch with some people at Lionsgate, and so I know some people, and every once in a while, we kind of chat about, kind of catch up on what's going on. So I know they're trying to do some stuff, but I'm not sure where they're at, or if they've actually developing actually something or sold something, or I have no idea who's involved. Right now it's like you probably know as much as I do.
No, it's interesting. Isa?
Very interesting. No, I would love to see a spin-off or a TV show or just, continuing it. This movie, I'm still traumatized from it. Actually, I remember the debates we used to have. I was in high school when this movie came out. I'm a
Yeah,
big horror movie fan, and I remember debating if it was real, if the actors were alive. And then I'll never forget the argument when they showed up. I think it was the MTV Movie Awards or Video Awards,
Yeah.
and they were
Video.
there. And I was like, "Wait, what? I thought they were dead."
I mean, it
It
was.
blew my mind.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I mean, like I was um I was in high school when this movie called Faces of Death like made the rounds, and it was like a videotape that people were, and I never and I was I was too afraid to see it, honestly. But I love that, like, I know that some people say that kind of Blair Witch became kind of that movie where it was like this kind of
Yeah.
weird thing that people were into or whatever. But I mean, look, and for me, like part of me is like I wish I could have been in high school when Blair Witch came out, because I know it would have been like the freaking thing that I would have like been obsessed with.
Yeah, it's something I will never forget. And like I said, as a horror movie fan, I feel like horror, like found footage, it has to be done right. And I always go to
Yeah,
Blair Witch when I want to speak about how found footage films can be done right. Blair Witch is the first one that I bring up. So thank you for that, because it's still one that I bring up to this day.
So
cool. Well,
good.
thank you for for loving it, and I appreciate that.
Well, so my biggest mystery of the Blair Witch Project
Mhm.
that I've thought about now for over 20 years is who leaked it on the internet prior to its theatrical debut.
Well, um, it wasn't really leaked on the internet because it was this was like when you couldn't really download a movie. It would take you like 3 days to download them. It was just the file size were just way too big. Um, so I mean there was piracy, but mostly it was just people copying the VHS tape.
Oh, got it.
We we think we know, because somebody like admitted it to us, like somebody um from Japan, because once the website was up, people were able to kind of contact
Oh,
us
yeah.
from all over. And somebody from Japan was like, "Oh my god, I love this movie," and we were like, "How'd you see it?" And they were just really honest. They're like, "Well, my brother or somebody I know is a judge at Sundance, and they made a copy." And but you know what? I mean, and but look, we were sending we were entering multiple film festivals, so who knows where it came from, but we know at least that one came from somebody's brother at Sundance. Um, but we felt that, like, for some reason, like, um that kind of helped
Yeah,
the buzz of the
absolutely.
movie. You know what I mean? Because it was before the internet, where like all you had to do was click on it.
Yeah.
You had to really work to find Blair Witch if it was on the internet. You know what I mean? And so basically, what people did mostly is just make copies of the VHS tape. And for me, it was like when Dan and I came up with the idea for this movie, that that was exactly the way we wanted people to see it. Like we were like, imagine a VHS tape that has no label on it, and you pop it in, and it has no credits. It's just like in this, the October of 2000, whatever, 1994, these three filmmakers got missing, and then it just goes in, and you're like, what the hell is this? And to me, that was like the best way to see this movie. It was like supposed to be like this, like almost like the Ring tape. You know what I mean? Like that's what we wanted it to be, because we had no idea that the movie we had no dreams that the movie was going to be a theatrical movie. I mean, we wouldn't have made it so shaky if we knew it was going to be seen on the big screen. I mean, we were, we our whole thing was like this would be cool on a little TV with a VHS. That's how we wanted the people to watch the movie, And so it became kind of this big thing, and obviously, the rest is history. But for us, it was just, it was just this, this cool idea you know, that just kept kind of, inspiring us to do cooler and cooler stuff.
And you're right, it absolutely worked, man. I mean, 250 million, what was it worldwide at the box office? I mean, whatever
So,
those leaks were ahead of time really built the buzz.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was, we had this kind of, the internet and then the Sci-Fi Channel, and we had, there was just a lot of kind of, I don't know, people were throwing, were sending each other stuff, and
Yeah.
even when the movie came out, like a lot of people were kind of in on, even if they knew it was fake, they kind of brought people in and said, no, no, this is real, man. Come on, let's go to the theater. So, again, back to that to the bootleg copies. I think a lot of people like saw that movie early on and were like, "Oh my god, when this comes out in the theater, I'm going to take my mom or or this, my brother who's scared of horror movies or whatever." So, I think that it helped kind of this movie was crazy because like it really was, um, you know, uh, kind of motivated and powered by like fan reaction, by like people actually become
Yeah.
part of the the drama. You know what I mean? Like people in on the
Hmm.
joke. Like I remember when I first met Robert Rodriguez, he was um he was like, "Oh man, I got a VHS copy of your movie, and I watched it, and it creeped me out. So I took it over to my my parents' house, and my 15-year-old younger sister. I sat her down. I'm like, "Oh my god, you got to see this. This is a freaking crazy. This is real." And he totally freaked her out. And I ended up working with Rebecca with her later on in life. She's a director also, and it's just weird that this is our connection, is that her brother freaked her out with my movie. But it was just, and people always say that, like, "Oh my god, I freaked my mom out doing this, or I freaked this person out, or whatever." So that was great, and that was like one of the most rewarding things for us, was just like how involved the fans got, and that's why we like tried to like do be special. When we actually still owned the website, like still controlled it, we tried to have as much fan interaction as possible, giving away
Yeah.
tickets and just kind of, because people love that, man. People love to be on the inside track, and we needed them. We needed the word of
Hmm.
mouth. So,
But in the grand scheme of things, how much guilt do you feel about Circuit City going out of business due to people abusing their generous return policy?
oh man, yeah, we definitely ruined Circuit City for sure. Man, I mean, Circuit City was like one of these companies where you were like, when is this gonna go out of business? Um, and again, for that ridiculous, return policy. And then I don't know. I had actually Mike Manella was one of the producers on Blair Witch, worked at Circuit City, and the kind of stories that he would say, I'm like, oh my.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of destined to go out of business. But no, I don't feel bad at all, man. I mean, I actually bought a lot of other crap from Circuit City. I made them plenty of money.
I brought up Circuit City recently and the whole Blair Witch thing, and I don't know who I was speaking to, but she responded with, "What's Circuit City?" And I felt so old at that moment,
I know, I know, man. Yeah, yeah. People don't know what Circuit City is.
right?
It's crazy, man. So, speaking of like fan frenzies and speculation, have you kept up with the Yellowjackets Hive and all of the rampant fandom that's going on right now?
I mean, not really. Like, if is there like is there one place that I should check out? Because I mean, I go on Twitter and but I haven't done any like deep dives, and I really would like to see, you know, what what people are saying. I mean, I've read some of the stuff, especially about my episode and this and that. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really, I mean, I feel like, again, I feel really blessed to have been part of this show, and I love that people like, just kind of, are championing it. You know what I'm saying? They a lot of people who really love this show. So I'm real grateful to that.
Well,
So
the Yellowjackets Reddit, man. Reddit Yellowjackets forum there went from like 1,000 people when the show launched to like 25,000 strong right now.
yeah,
It's insane.
I'll check it out, man.
And in hindsight, this might not even make sense to you how we worked ourselves into these mental gymnastics, but prepare yourself for a lot of like Adam is really Javi justification
I see.
all
So
Oh,
many
season.
theories. So many
So
theories.
many
It'll keep you
theories.
busy for a while. It'll keep you busy for a while.
Everyone was wrong on that one. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
meant to ask you, do you guys work with a real bear for this scene?
We did, but it was like
Oh
um,
wow.
there were two separate units. We,
Okay.
know, we shot the bear separate. Actually, I wasn't even there when they were shooting the bear. The
wow.
Jamie Travis, I think the producing director did the shooting. Basically, we just storyboarded out like what
Right.
shots, and we went out and shot the bear. But no, the bear, the cameraman couldn't even be in the same. There had to be
Right.
like an electric fence around the bear at
Oh
all
wow.
times.
So
This
we
was
got some
not.
Hollywood magic in this
It was,
scene.
yeah, and they did a lot of Hollywood magic, believe me, a lot
Yeah.
of Hollywood magic. So
Yeah, no, I mean, we look forward to finding out what happened in
yeah,
season two. I mean, but it was yeah, it was so action packed that
I
season
can't
finale.
wait. I can't wait to see it.
Same.
No, it's gonna be great. I mean, I
Yep.
just the excitement is still people are still high on the finale. What was it like directing Peter Gadio as a corpse here after working with him on Queen of the South?
It was funny, man, because I'm like, I saw that he was in the show, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll be able to have some scenes, and then I read my script, and I'm like, ah, they killed him. Um, it was and it was crazy because he texted me. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? Whatever. I'm on this show, and here come." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And then he's like, "Is there any way we can shoot all my dead scenes in one day? Because then I don't have to get dressed in the dead makeup 2 days." And so we ran it by the AD, and the AD was like, "No, it's going to be trouble, whatever." But in the end, we basically like, "All right, we'll just do it all in one day." So that was that was our biggest. That's the biggest discussion I had with him is like, can we shoot him in one day instead of two? But no, I mean, yeah, it was kind of cool to have friendly face from another
Yeah,
show, and so it was good. And now I've gotten to the point where I've done a lot of TV, and there's always either the crew or somebody
yeah,
in the cast. I always know somebody, so it's cool.
especially in Vancouver. And did you have a favorite finale scene to film that you worked on?
I mean, my favorite scene was the very end where the with the bear heart.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I rarely have a crane, you've seen my films, some of my films.
Yes.
I rarely have a crane, and I rarely have snow. Like we had, it was, and they had made this so it was like for me, like trying to figure out how we were going to shoot because we could only have snow on one side and then the other. We couldn't, obviously we couldn't put snow all over the woods. So, but just shooting that and and just how we were going to introduce uh Misty and Val behind them, behind
Mhm.
the who's the one that comes to the
Lottie.
yeah behind Lottie, how because it had her, Lottie comes up and then you introduce the two ladies behind her, and so and it was like the end. That's the end of the series. I'm like, we gotta nail this. But luckily, again, just super talented DP and camera people, and and we just and then the snow came in at the right time, and it was just beautiful.
And thinking about the storyboards and working with C. Kim Miles as cinematographer, was the hollowed out tree stump in the semicircle shape and the triangle, was that a deliberate allusion to the forest symbol?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I
I mean, it's
don't
a
know.
beautiful shot.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
no,
he was.
no. It was it was just one of those things where like you want kind of an iconic image for the end of
Yeah,
the season,
Yeah.
and the fact that there are symbols and stuff, and people like you guys are going to be like, oh my god, was that whatever. But I don't think it was ever discussed. It might have been something that was discussed earlier, but it
got
wasn't
it.
discussed on my episode. So
No, I just
Right.
thought it was really, really cool how that was set up.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
me
I've
too.
just got one or two more. Issa, what else do you have?
Oh, I don't have any more questions actually.
Okay, so I have to know, do you have a favorite Blair Witch parody? I know there were a lot of bad ones, but were there any that you liked?
I mean the Scooby Doo one, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Mad Magazine one. The Mad Magazine one was like, because I grew up on Mad Magazine, so like to see my movie parodied on Mad, that was like, out, ridiculous.
Yeah,
But yeah, the Scooby Doo project is the best one, man. I mean, I think
I think so.
it's just it's awesome. So.
It is.
What else are you working on right now? What else do you have upcoming?
I'm going to Vancouver to shoot an episode of Charmed next
Nice.
week, and then I go off, and we got we're pitching a couple of shows in the next couple of months. So hopefully we sell one and at least get some interest in them. So mostly just doing that. And I got a couple of features that are like kind of kind of coming up, and threatening to be financed and stuff. So just juggling a bunch of things and building up my Star Wars collection, as always. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, but I mean, this finale looked so good, man. And I think, with found footage, people think it's easy. I mean, it's got to be a lot more difficult to direct something when you're letting your actors, especially, control the camera and you don't have
I
as much
mean,
control.
yeah, people think it's easy. It's an easier process, but no, it's not easy. I mean, it's easier in some ways, but you still have to like make a good film, and
Right.
get good characters and figure out the beats, and it's just a different way of filmmaking. But yeah, people, I've seen a lot of bad found footage movies, and I think that I've seen a lot of great ones too. So it can, the good ones continue to surprise me, and it's just such a a great thing that we kind of popularized it.
Yep.
But yeah, you still, it's not as easy as it seems.
What TV and movies are you obsessed with as of late that you're watching?
Um, let's see. Well, the Book of Boba Fett, of
Yeah.
course. We just watched Sex Education, which I really, and Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
We watched. I thought that was great. We just caught up to This Is Us.
Nice.
Which I think
Okay.
still a really good show. I was amazed by how well that show works. Like the first season. But and then what the hell else did we see? We saw a movie called Pig, which I thought was really good. And we're trying to catch up kind of on the Oscar movies now. And then what the hell? Oh, I've been watching. What I've been doing is I've been watching every single Star Trek episode and movie in chronological order, like in the star date order.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Oh my! I mean, it's super geeky, and I told my agents, I'm like, now you got to get me a meeting with the Star Trek people because I know every single episode. But yeah, I started with like, I guess with Enterprise or Discoveries first, and then Enterprise, and then the original. I mean, so even the cartoons, man. I've been doing it for like about a year and a half now. I'm almost done, and
Wow. That's a journey.
it's quite a journey for sure. And it's just, but anyway, that's kind of what I've been obsessed with, is just I'm like 700 episodes into, like, it's like 800 episodes or something of Star Trek. Um and but just kind of again, there's so much good stuff, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so much good stuff out there. So um
How did that affect your viewing order during the concurrent events of Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, and
well, you know
Voyager?
what? Well, there's a guide.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There's like an episode guide where, so basically you start flipping between Next Generation
Mm,
and Deep Space Nine, and then you start going back and forth between Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
that's awesome.
So I mean, I just love, and that's what I love about Star Wars also, is like the idea that there is, and mythology like Blair Witch, like, we did it on Blair Witch because we had seen it done, in Star Trek and
Yeah.
Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. I mean, but I just love the deep mythology, and the fact that there's a timeline, you know what I mean, that it mostly adheres to, you know what I'm saying? Um yeah, it's just really cool to be able to, like, create another world and populate it, and just, kind of use it as a playground, but also, to teach lessons, and I think it's great. And it's, and look, I mean, no matter, whether you like Star Trek or Star Wars, or you think Star Trek is whatever, because my wife is like, I can't believe you watch this show. I'm like, I love it. You crazy? Just it's a good series. I mean, all this,
Absolutely.
they all kind of get into this groove, and they all. I mean, it's just something about them, that they just work, and I think they've done a really great job. So.
It's awesome. Well, I look forward to in 4 years when someone does a chronological cut of Yellow Jackets.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, you could do that. That'd be cool. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, it'd be great to get, 5 seasons out of it, but we'll see what happens. And I hope they ask me back, I hope they are happy with
Oh,
everything.
me
So
too.
yeah, so
Sounds like it, man.
it'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to come back. I think it'll be fun.
Cool, man. Well, Eduardo Sanchez, thank you so much for your time today. Where can
Thank you.
people find you on the internet?
I'm around. I have a Facebook page, Hacks and Films.
Yeah, that's right.
And then on Twitter, I'm Sanchez on the mic, but I don't do it. I don't really Twitter that much, but so that's where
Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm
Thanks
at.
everyone for listening. We will catch you back next time on Yellow Jackets Buzz.